Okay, once you've completed your thesis statement and your introductory paragraph, it's time to start writing the outline for your first draft. Okay, so this is going to be in point form. It does not need to be in full sentences. It's just a skeletal outline. Okay, so you're going to start by writing your topic sentence in the first little chunk here of the table. Okay, your topic sentence needs to connect to the thesis and introduce your first reason. The first reason that appears in your essay should be the first reason that's listed in your thesis statement. Make sure it's the same. Do not go in a different order than you listed the reasons in your thesis statement. Okay, it needs to be in the same order. Okay, so your topic sentence is going to be something like, in the play Someday, the characters experience the long-lasting effects of the 60s scoop because they, whatever it is, or as a result of whatever it is, okay? Whatever is your first reason will go in that place there, okay? Now, in order to write your essay, you need 2 quotations per paragraph. You need 1 quotation from the play and 1 quotation that comes from your research. It doesn't really matter which one goes first as long as you're consistent, okay? So if in your first paragraph you put a quotation from Someday first, make sure that in your remaining 3 paragraphs, in all the paragraphs, the quotation from the play goes first. Just be consistent, keep it in the same order every time. You want to make things as easy for your reader as possible, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up your quotation. Now what I mean by set up quotation is you can't just give the reader a quotation without any sort of indication of where the quotation comes from. So when you're dealing with the play, the setup to your quotation is going to be an introduction to the scene where the quotation is being said. Okay? So for example, in this, in the first scene, Rodney tells the reader about his dislike for Christmas. Okay? He says, quote, okay? Then you put your quotation from the play. So whatever your quotation is, remember, I will post a video about MLA format another time. For right now, just record the author, which is Drew Hayden Taylor. All you need is his last name, which is Taylor, comma, page number. So whatever page it is, 2. I don't remember, okay? So you insert the quotation there, okay? Once you've done the setup to quotation and your quotation, it's time for your first explanation. Now here, this can be in point form. The most important thing in this section here is that you do not summarize. You have to explain how the quotation proves your thesis. That's analysis. We've been talking a lot this year about summary versus analysis and the differences between the two. A trap that a lot of grade 11 students fall in is that they end up summarizing the play when they should be explaining how the quotation supports the thesis. How does your chosen quotation show the long-term effects of the 60s scoop? That is your thesis. So here you have to explain how the quotation supports your thesis. Okay? Once you feel that you have adequate explanation for your example from the play, you're going to move on to your quotation from the research. Okay? Okay, so remember, you also need a transition between your first point and your second point. Okay, so you're going to want to give the reader some sort of transition that lets the reader know we're no longer talking about the play. Now we're looking at a real-life example. So make sure you give a sentence or 2 just to explain the transition, that you are, as the writer, are transitioning from one point to another. Okay? Now, setting up your quotation from your research may be a little bit more tricky. It shouldn't be too bad, though. So in the setup to quotation from the research, you're going to want to give as much information about the quotation as possible. So you're going to want to tell the reader, where does the quotation come from? You're also going to want to tell the reader who is speaking if you have that information. Okay? So it could be something like, in an article entitled, whatever the article is called, the author, whatever their name is, explains that the 60s scoop, whatever was your first reason. Okay, that's an example of a setup to quotation from your research. Okay, then you're going to give the quotation. Now remember, just like I said before, I will do a separate posting about MLA format a little bit later on. For right now, just remember author's last name, and if possible, the page number. Now you may not have a page number if you're using a website, so hopefully you've recorded all that information in your note cards and your research notes, so you can go back and add that information in later. Okay, in terms of URL and access date and all of that, you should have all of that written down already. Okay, so once you've set up your quotation from your research, you've given up your quotation from your research, it's time to explain. Now, in this case, you have to explain how this quotation supports your thesis, but also how does the quotation connect to the quotation that you mentioned before from Someday. Okay, so whenever you're explaining the second quotation, you always have to refer back to the first quotation. How do they relate to each other, and how does that help to prove your thesis? Okay, so like the characters in the play Someday, and so on. So-and-so experiences the long-term effects of the 60 scoop, specifically whatever your point was for this paragraph. Okay? And remember, you are not summarizing the article. You are explaining how the quotation supports your thesis. Okay? Don't just summarize. That's not what I'm asking you to do here. I'm asking you to analyze, to explain how the quotation supports the thesis. Okay? Once you have your two quotations with your explanation, it's time to have your concluding sentence. Like your topic sentence, your concluding sentence needs to link to your thesis and restate your argument. Okay, whatever your argument was in that paragraph, your concluding sentence and your topic sentence are going to look very similar, but they shouldn't be exactly the same. Okay, they're going to look similar because they're both doing the same thing. They're both linking to your thesis and they're both restating your argument. However, they shouldn't be the exact same word for word. Okay, that's grade 9. This is grade 11. Okay, so challenge yourself and try to reword it in different wording, different language. Okay, again, I realize this is very confusing. Remember that this is just the very rough outline. It doesn't need to be in full sentences. It can be completely in point form. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. And you know you can watch this video as many times as you need to. Okay, I will see you tomorrow. Good luck.